The Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I watched the Rams game. I'm not totally shocked that the San Francisco 49ers pulled that off. You give Shanahan a bye week. The defense played better than they've played in weeks. Maybe all season since Bosa and Solomon Thomas went down with an injury the same game. Like this, let me say this. I think next season, 2021, San Francisco's my pick to make it to the Super Bowl.
Sure, I could see that.
Man, the amount of injuries, 2 years in a row, by the way, that this team has dealt with, they don't have their quarterback. They're in the wild card chase, Brad.
Yeah.
With the Cardinals losing to the Patriots last week, and that was I'm not going to say it's a bad loss because anytime you lose to the Patriots, it's not a bad loss. I mean, they're just so well coached.
There's no shame in that.
No shame in that. And that was a danger game for me too for the Cardinals. Both of these teams coming off losses. To me, like I would say for an average kind of NFL fan that just checks in and looks at the scores, they might be surprised. To me, neither one of these were surprises. These were definitely dangerous games. But the Cardinals loss, taking them to 5 losses, they still have to deal with the NFC West for the rest of the season.
Yeah. San
Francisco 49ers, who we're not going to talk about today, have 6 losses. They're in the mix. The Minnesota Vikings, I thought they needed to beat the Dallas Cowboys a couple weeks ago. They lost that game. I thought they'd be out of it. But now the Minnesota Vikings, with that comeback victory last week, they're in the mix with 6 losses. There are a lot of these 6-loss teams because the Cardinals took that 5th loss last week that are now in the mix. I thought the Cardinals needed to win that game to really
they did.
cement
and I watched
themselves.
A lot of that game. And they Cliff Kingsbury was going toe-to-toe with Belichick. And it was one bad call on 3rd down, which cost them points, and then there was one bad penalty. Well, did you see the penalty on Cam Newton?
I didn't see it.
Okay, so I think they called it not because it was late, but because it was helmet to helmet. But without that play, I think the result could have been different. And again, there's no shame in losing to Belichick, and they went toe-to-toe with them.
Look, Belichick, they're gonna deflate the offense a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Right, and they were in position. I think they had the ball before I think they had the ball within the last minute and couldn't get a first down or something like that. Like I said, I had other games on, so I wasn't watching that one live. But I mean, there's no shame because your offense is gonna deflate. So the Patriots, all they really have to do is get enough in the run game. They're not going to be a passing game this year. They're a run and defense team, and I think they're figuring that out slower than they should have, but they're figuring that out slowly. But yeah, I mean, that's why I kind of saw it coming, and I was worried about it. And I took the Cardinals just because I was like, I believe that the Cardinals are going to take the next step. To do that, they have to win this game. They didn't. It is what it is.
Yeah, sure. But with regards to the 49ers, even with all the injuries, man, you can't go in there and just expect to boat race them. No. I mean, I know Green Bay got lucky this year because they literally went against them at their worst point.
Yeah, right. Everybody's on COVID list, all that stuff. In addition to the injuries.
Or injured. Yeah, it was either COVID or injured. So they got lucky, but I think they're coming around. I'm assuming they have more starters back, and Shanahan's a great coach. But Jared Goff looked terrible. And he's one of these guys that can look like something one week and something else the next week. And I don't know what that is.
The fact that he absolutely destroyed Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay.
They looked so buttoned up, and they lit up Tampa Bay, and they had juice, and they had energy, and they were in sync. And you looked at the Rams and said, oh, okay.
Yeah,
they're one of the top tier,
and I picked them from the onset to be in the playoffs. So I knew that the Rams, I just knew they were going to get together. I think last year was more McVay's issue than the team's issue. I've been on record, and even Rams fans, if you're going to try to as fans do, comment and say, even McVay came out and said, yeah, I got away from the run game. We got away from our identity too fast. And that's, to me, the core issue. And they finished 7. If they had the 7 seeds last year, they would have been in last year too.
Yeah, right.
I like them, but Goff against the Bucs, I'm thinking he took a step forward. I'm threw it all on his shoulders, beat a good team, dominated. Now, it is a division game. So I don't bang on him too much, I guess. The 49ers know what to do against Goff. But you're right. I mean, he didn't look great. But like you said, Aaron Rodgers did not look great against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure,
so sometimes you lay an egg.
Sometimes you lay an egg. And maybe that's just the way it goes. And I think we're seeing that more and more this year for some reason. I don't remember a year where we've had so many good teams that for some reason come out and lay one. Maybe maybe it's the climate of the year, 2020. Maybe it's tougher to get up for games with Zoom practices and the lack of camaraderie or
no fans in stands for the most part.
Yeah. That might be it right there. You got to assume, it's human beings, emotional beings, and having the fans there just rip roaring for you, it must give you some type of juice that you can't just create on your own.
That's why I stayed out of the big tournaments, the big betting tournaments this year, is because the fans to me have so much to do with not only in-game play, but they have a lot to do with how the sportsbooks set the line.
Yeah,
and I interviewed on another podcast. I interviewed, some sportsbook guys, the managers and all that stuff. And I asked them a question early in the season, like, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, "Honestly, it's probably going to take us 17 weeks to figure out how to really accurately." Yeah. And you've seen lines jump, from like one team favored by 4 to the other team favored by 5. That you don't get a 9-point swing in a regular season. Like, I know. So these nobody knows how to bet this season, me included. Me included.
Yeah.
And so I've been for the most part I've been staying away unless I felt like there was a really good one. Like Steelers getting 5 points against the Ravens, their first matchup. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna take that one. That one paid off.
Do you think that there is such a thing as home field advantage this year? Do you think that still exists?
I don't believe so. I honestly don't. And I really, as my strategy as a bettor, I like to take the appreciation on a home field advantage and go with the road team a lot. That's where I find most of my value.
Yeah, but I do think that's something, not having to travel, that's an advantage. Right, staying home and being in your own facilities, that's an advantage.
That is an advantage, absolutely.
And if you're the team that's used to that climate, right? If you're Pittsburgh playing at home and the Dolphins are coming in, that's also an advantage. But the biggest deal when it comes to home field advantage is the fans and the energy that they provide, and that's not there.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, as a matchup, and as I'm typing over here on my side, I think the video, if you're picking this up on YouTube, is getting choppy and not syncing up because I'm loading some stuff on the computer as I'm talking about this. It'll catch it. But, I'm loading the schedule, so I want to go through each team's schedules and the standings and all that stuff first. But in terms of matchup, look, we know what the Cardinals are going to want to do. The Cardinals are going to want to, hit your short passes, the quote-unquote extension of the run game, which I don't believe in, by the way. But they are a very good run team, which I like. They do go to the run. But they use the pass to set up the run, almost like kind of old Steve Spurrier, in that, a lot of their runs will come out of the shotgun in, unpredictable situations, which I think, is a compliment of Cliff Kingsbury. And then they hit, DeAndre Hopkins over the top. And it's pretty massively, difficult to to ascertain or figure out what's going on. McVay not being able to run the ball against San Francisco, that's been a consistent storyline for teams against San Francisco all year. They can stop the run. The Cardinals, to me, their defense and their defensive philosophy actually plays into the hands of the Rams here. And I think the Rams and Goff and the run game, I think it will be better this week against the Cardinals. But the Rams and what they do, their strong defensive line, and Aaron Donald just being a man amongst men. I mean, he's a beast, completely unable to block him. He's almost like, to use a basketball analogy, he's almost like early Shaquille O'Neal, where he gets fouled every single time and every single snap, and rather than just see a flag for a holding call on every single snap, they only call the egregious stuff, which isn't fair, but that's what we're watching. He is the best.
He's a maniac. He's the best.
Best defensive lineman, at least interior defensive lineman I've seen since Reggie White is what we said a couple weeks ago, and he's just incredible, First ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. Better to me than J.J. Watt was in his heyday. I mean, he's just unblockable.
Yeah, he's a beast.
You never see a defensive tackle in the backfield. You always see it with the defensive ends like J.J. Watt, but to have somebody in the backfield every snap like Aaron Donald, it's a game changer. You can't even triple team him with your interior offensive line, which means everybody else is one-on-one. He's just unbelievable. But, Arizona, the sprint left, the sprint right. Kyler Murray is the quickest freaking player outside of Tyreek Hill. It's like Tyreek Hill is probably the quickest in the NFL. I really think Kyler Murray, you're talking about, stop to sprint speed, high speed. I don't know that there's a second, Tyreek Hill, I think, outdoes him, and I think Tyreek Hill at quarterback is the second fastest. It's unbelievable. So that neutralizes a little bit of what the Rams want to do. So I think this is a really fascinating game. Really fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. I'd like to see Kyler Murray bounce back. They're on a little bit of a slide, but they haven't exactly played bad. Right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think their schedule's just getting a little bit worse,
Yeah, but I will say this, if it wasn't for that Hail Mary, if it wasn't for that, then I think we're having a different conversation about what this team is due to the win-loss record, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't pull that one out. And look, I don't give Hail Marys as much respect as other people. I don't think it means...
I think there's a lot of luck that goes into it.
It's so much luck. That's why we call it Hail Mary. I don't think it means that you're awesome or even that you even made a good play. That was a great catch, right? But
ultimately, what that was in desperation, a throw into triple coverage, and your beast of a wide receiver comes down with it.
And he was a beast, and he did make a good play.
Yeah.
But it's not
a skill play that you're going to go to the well on.
Yeah, it's not a real football play. Okay, so they did it, and that was awesome, and it was fun to see. But I think if they don't do that, we're having a completely different conversation about the Cardinals because that puts them. What would that put them, Sean? Because right now they're at.
Well, they're 6-5. That would be 5-6.
So they would be 5-6, and it would be a completely different story. Just that one game, I think, makes all the difference in the dialogue.
You look at, if you break this down into quarters, or at least the last 4 games, they lose to the Dolphins. They missed a field goal at the end that would have sent that into overtime. They got the victory. So really, probably they should have lost to the Bills, and I think they probably should have beaten the Dolphins. But they end up 1-1 in the AFC East, so it evens out. They lose to the Seahawks. Absolutely no shame in that. By the way, they beat the Seahawks before that, and then they lose to the Patriots, which I'm not even going to call that a trap game. I'm sure they were ready for it, but that was just a good physical team. And the Patriots are, if you're paying attention to them, they are getting better. And I've criticized them to no end on this show. They're getting better. Incrementally, like they're working with what they have now. They're not telling Cam to go 5 wide and throw it. That's not his game. Just run people over. That's his game. Now, the Rams, let me hit you with the line here, but I want to go back to the standings too and just kind of make some season-long predictions because I think that would be interesting. The line, Bovada has the Rams on the road -1.5. So Rams are favorites on the road versus the Cardinals. Who would you have here?
You know what? I'm going to go with the Rams because I think overall they're more seasoned. I think they're a little bit better, and I think Jared Goff's going to bounce back.
This is a game that Kyler Murray has to win because I do believe that the Rams are going to get their standard score, and the Rams defense, like the Rams, I like their offense, I like their coaching. This is a defensive team, and I don't think enough people are talking about. They're talking about like Goff and the run game and all this stuff. This is a team that is being led by its defense, very similar to me to the San Francisco 49ers of last year. And although the Rams that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago were a good team, I wouldn't say that they were far and away led by their defense. I think they were led by their offense. The makeup of this team, like their defense is very, very, it's very good, and I think even a little bit underrated. Jalen Ramsey's going to try to travel with DeAndre Hopkins. Look, DeAndre Hopkins is another animal. I think even in double coverage, just throw it to him. I think DeAndre Hopkins wins that matchup. But to me, it's all about whether or not Kyler Murray's quickness can outdo the Los Angeles Rams defensive line. I'm going to give the nod to the Rams, but this one is really a coin flip to me. In Arizona, one of the rules, like one of the things that statistically pay out over time is a division opponent that is an underdog covers the spread like 80%. It's like 2/3 of the time. Right. So, Arizona's not going to want to be an underdog in their home turf. And we'll see if Larry Fitzpatrick is back as well. I had a dream that I got some of his cleats for some reason. I don't know. So it's such a weird. I had a weird array of dreams. Let's get to the schedule. So let's talk about the Cardinals, who are 6-5, and they have to deal with a lot of NFC West to close the season. So let's say the Rams. We both say the Rams will win this game, right? That's our prediction. But it's a coin flip, so go either way. But let's say they fall to 6-6. Then the next week they have the Giants. They should win that game, although I think the Giants are playing a lot better than they were the first part of the year. They should win that game, the Giants, especially after, if that were to be the case, losing 3 in a row, they're going to win that game.
Yeah.
Then they play the Eagles, who are absolutely reeling. By then, the Eagles could go to Jalen Hurts at quarterback. They should win that game. So that gets them to 8-6. right?
Okay.
Then they play the 49ers again.
Okay.
And then they close the season against the Rams. I figure at least, at best, 1-1 in those games. Which puts them at 9-7.
Okay.
I don't know if that's enough to get it done.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me look at, hold on, let me pull up the standings because I want to make sure I have the 49ers record right before. And obviously, the Cardinals beat the 49ers earlier in the year. So the 49ers really have to win that game against the Cardinals to make sure that they even that head-to-head record. So the San Francisco 49ers are 5-6, one game back, and of course, they have the head-to-head victory. So let's look at the 49ers. The 49ers, they play the Bills this week. I tend to think the Bills will win that game, but I don't think it's a gimme for the Bills. So they fall to 5-7 there. 49ers play Washington. Shanahan's going to absolutely put the screws into Washington.
Yeah,
I like the way Washington's playing now, but they're not going to win that game. The 49ers will win that game. So they'll go to 6-7. Then the 49ers play the Cowboys. They're going to win that game. They go to 7-7. The 49ers close with the Seahawks at home. That's a big one. And then they also play the Cardinals in Week 16. So the 49ers have to run the table almost. Look, if the 49ers beat the Bills this week, I'm thinking we're talking 49ers in playoffs again.
Can I just say this? And this is going to sound crazy, but the 49ers are an amazing team, maybe the best team in the NFC, if not for injuries and COVID this year, right?
Yeah.
So, the harsh reality is maybe you say, okay, 2020 sucks.
Yeah.
We got the shaft this year, right? We got screwed. So let's pack it in, man, and let's get the best draft position that we possibly can and come back here in 9 months' time.
Maybe.
I know it goes against the human nature, but if you're an advanced organization with high self-esteem and a long-term reality, right, then maybe you cut your losses and you go, for some reason it wasn't in our cards. Look, they got to play the next 2 home games in Arizona.
It's true.
What is the karma this team has had, right?
You're right. Putting some negative into the universe.
They must have done something. I'm just saying that, and I know it's not going to happen because it goes against everything that makes up an athlete and a competitor. But that'd be the smart move.
Yeah. Let me say this: if the Rams do win against Arizona this week, and the 49ers can pull off the upset against the Bills, and those two teams even up in record, that Cardinals versus 49ers game in Week 16 is probably a play-in game to the playoffs.
Well, maybe
we'll see.
with the 7th game added, but I don't think 9-7 gets you in because you look at the Seattles and the Tampas. I think the Rams will.
Seattle or the Rams will win the division.
Right.
And you're looking at 3 wild card teams. So I'm putting the Bucs, and I'm assuming the Bucs and either Seattle or Los Angeles, they're in. And so the wild card then becomes San Francisco, Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota, everybody. San Francisco. Remember, the Minnesota Vikings have a lot of Bears and Lions left on their schedule. That matters. It's wild card.
Wild card is wild.
Let me read you the rest of the Rams schedule. They're 8-3, leading the division. So they got the Cardinals. We think they'll go to 9-3. We'll see. Then they have the Patriots. I think they lose that game. I think that's a quote unquote upset. I think the Patriots win that game. They go to 9-4. The Jets, come on, they got to win that game. That's 10-4. Then they close the season with the Seahawks and the Cardinals. And that Seahawks game is going to be for the division. Rams are in the playoffs.
Yeah, they should be.
They would really have to collapse, but it's not an easy schedule in the year. Their only gimme is against the Jets. Wow. This NFC West, man. They continue
it's wild. Wild West.
Yep. All right.
But a little bit less, I guess, excellent than we thought it would be. Right? Just a little bit.
I don't know, man. If the 49ers were healthy, the Cardinals are a little bit better than we thought they were. I still say the West is the best. If it weren't for, San Francisco pissing off the football karma people.
Yeah, the football gods.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, let's